Good morning, everyone. My name is Jackie Dzizelski, here on staff at the Manatee Chamber, and we are thrilled that we'll be bringing the Big Bank Theory back to every public high school in Manatee County, as well as the State College of Florida Collegiate School for the first time since 2019. And so between the last couple years of upheaval that understandably, the pandemic has limited volunteer access to the schools. We are just so excited that the Chamber and our members and our volunteers will once again be back in the schools. So just a quick show of hands, how many of you have volunteered for Big Bang Theory before? Okay, so a couple, I can see a few of you on screen. So I know a few of you have volunteered before. So thank you so much for coming back. Dan, we see your hand raised over there as well. You guys have hopefully somewhat of a remembrance of what it's like to walk into that high school gymnasium and see the setup for Big Bang and the experience that the students will have. So we'll look forward to sharing a little bit about your experience at the end when we have some time for Q&A. So our hope today in about an hour is to share with you kind of the goals of the Big Bang Theory and why we're sending 200 plus volunteers into the schools. Talk with you a little bit about logistics and what to expect, both on the school campus in general, but also for the Big Bang Theory setup in particular, and hopefully make you feel comfortable that you will be able to do this with no problem. And there are certainly plenty of situations that may arise that the students will throw at us that you all are very independent thinking, smart people, and you will just wing it in some instances. So not to make you feel like there's going to be all this unknown, but these kids are really creative as they are working through this activity and coming up with a solution for their monthly budgets. For those of you that are on via Zoom, you should have access to the handouts that I'm now going to be referring to. They were attached, I believe, either via an email or to your calendar item. So we're going to start with the first page and just flip through some information. You are welcome to interrupt if you've got questions, or if you want to hold them, we'll remember them or jot them down till the end. We can handle it that way too. We will just go with whatever's most comfortable for you guys. So obviously the Big Bang Theory, most of you, if not all of you, know that we developed this program as a way to stress financial literacy skills, in this case with high school seniors. And this program was a direct result of our Chamber Education and Workforce Committee that was hearing from our Chamber members from the business community about their concerns related to the financial literacy or lack thereof, particularly with some of their younger employees. And so we said, this is an opportunity. Our Chamber has a very long history of close partnership with our school district, including more than 30 years presenting Project Teach for those of you who have volunteered for our annual Project Teach program, the official business education partnership program. And so we said, there's an opportunity here for businesses to bring something to the table and be able to support our schools and our students and enhance their learning experience. So we actually found a program in Chattanooga, Tennessee, that was similar to what we and our school district partners who were helping us with the curriculum felt might be a good fit. And so we were able to adapt the program to the needs here in Manatee County. And so hats off to the school district for their assistance in really writing what they felt was senior level appropriate curriculum. So for those of us who have ever played the game of life, like I, in my 50s now, I remember the old school with the spinner and the teeny tiny little pegs. Like my kids' version of life is not as cool as mine was, in my opinion, that board game. But that's somewhat along the lines of what you all will be helping the students walk through, because they're going to be faced with all kinds of life experiences while they're in the gymnasium with each of you. And so along the way, they are asked to make adult decisions related to spending or not spending, whatever their personal profile is with regards to their budget and their family situation. And so overarching all of that is really what the goals of the Big Bang Theory are intended to accomplish. On the second page of your handouts, you'll see I'm not going to read it to you, but you'll see how we developed the curriculum with our objectives of As I said, daily spending decisions, understanding how education could potentially affect earning potential via the jobs that are available at certain levels of post-secondary education. And so we talk about they'll be faced with budgeting, they'll be faced with saving money, they'll be faced with the opportunity or decision not to take the opportunity to have credit, to have a credit card. And then certainly we want them to dialogue with you all as volunteers as well. It's going to seem a bit hectic when you're there in the gymnasium and there's, you know, anywhere from 50 to 70 students that are walking around, visiting and talking with all of our volunteers there. But we promise you now, after almost 10 years, it really is somewhat of a science, and it's a pretty well-oiled machine. And I think our new volunteers will find that it ends up being a very easy experience for you to jump right in. And so to talk a little bit about what you'll expect when you walk into the high school gymnasium, we don't have a booth set up here. Do we have one of them? But basically there'll be 13 or 14 tables that are spread out really almost in a circle in the gymnasium. And you will be stationed at one of those booths. And so the students are required to visit most, if not all of the booths, depending on the profile that they're given. And so you'll be sitting at the table, you'll have your cheat sheets and things right in front of you of what your booth is responsible for helping the students decide with regards to their budget. You could be the car dealership, you could be where they're securing housing, you could be where they're deciding if they need to get a second job to be able to support themselves or their families in the spending decisions that they want to make. And so really it is like the game of life. When we set this up for the students, when they run into the gym and sit in the bleachers while you all are sitting there at your booth, Tara and Jenny and I will be giving the students a quick orientation and saying, you know, poof, all of a sudden you are now 25-year-old adults. And we will pass out a large stack of profiles. They'll be randomly selected by the students. You'll see them on the very last page of your handouts. But the students are told you are now magically a 25-year-old adult. On your profile form, you'll see that they are given their occupation, their annual income, what that relates to as far as a monthly income, because they are trying to balance 1 month's worth of their budget. We share with them what their education level is that supports that occupation that they are currently employed in, their family status, so whether or not they are married. If they are married, what their spouse's employment situation is, whether they're not employed or whether they're employed and contributing to that monthly family budget, and then whether or not they have dependents. And so there's a whole mix out there. We have plenty of profiles to give a great diversity to what realistically are family situations in our community. So you'll then see it shows their monthly income. We do show them the reality of taxes. And so they right away will see, at least in writing, that there are taxes. You'll see if they have a spousal income, whether that adds to their bottom line or not, and then their monthly available budget. And then that carries forward down into the chart at the bottom of the page. And so at the bottom of the page is where you as a volunteer will be doing your work in helping the students complete the activity. And so if you flip back to the second page of the handout, I'm going to go through each of the booths because some of you know or may know or soon will know which booth you're in. Some of you will find that out all of you will find that out prior to arriving at the school. So again, as I mentioned earlier, the students will visit all or almost all of the booths. If the student has a profile in which they have dependents, they will be required to find childcare if those students are younger than school age or need to be in an after-school program because of their parental work situation. And so those that don't have dependents will not be visiting the childcare booth. But I'll tell you, light bulbs go off all over that gymnasium when students visit the childcare booth and see the expense of childcare, right? So real world situations. There's back to school, a back to school booth. So if students choose to prioritize gaining additional post-secondary education to allow them in the future to potentially seek a career in which they will be more highly compensated, that's an opportunity. They'll have to purchase clothing. We do have a FAFSA booth. So for those of you not familiar with FAFSA, it's the free application for financial student aid. So very important for in real life for our high school seniors in particular to ensure that their families are completing the FAFSA to make them eligible for financial aid, including free Pell Grants. And I'll tell you, there are millions of dollars every single year that get left on the table that could have been allocated to Manatee County students. And so that's a whole nother challenge that the Chamber is in partnership with many organizations to try to address. Because currently less than half of the students in Manatee County that graduate from high school have their family complete the FAFSA. So think about that. That means half of the students, more than half the students in Manatee County don't have access to that potential financial aid. So we see every high school student if they're in class on the day where we're at their school. So it's a real opportunity for us to make a dent and try to get more families educated about the importance of the FAFSA. Financial institution, we do have a bank and they are required to at a minimum open up at least a savings account. They have other options available to them there as well. They have to visit the grocery store, they have to secure housing, they'll be securing insurance, another booth where the proverbial light bulbs seem to go off more than anywhere else is when they realize the expense of health insurance for their family in particular. Jobs, students do have the option of securing an additional part-time job. Great opportunity for those of you that are in the jobs booth to have that conversation. If a student is coming to you, perhaps even as a single parent, working full-time already, 2 or 3 dependents, and they come to you for a part-time job, that conversation about, is that really, we understand the financial choice, but the quality of life choice for you and your children, you're working, a job and a half, it can be a conversation point, a brief conversation point, because they do have to visit all of the booths, but again, some real world situations and conversations could present themselves to you. There is a just for fun booth, so they make some decisions regarding spending with regards to entertainment. We have a That's Life booth that is pretty fun. They pick a random card and a life situation presents itself. It could be positive to their bottom line and it could be negative to their bottom line. A flat tire on the way to work or a birthday gift. So lots of fun at the That's Life booth. Transportation, any of you that end up at our car dealership, your line will be the longest, most likely at the start of the activity. Kids, for some reason, seem to beeline it to that car dealership. Those of you at the car dealership will likely have some trade-in conversations to have towards the end of the activity too, when these students have made a decision regarding what kind of car they want to drive and need to rethink it after they've visited insurance and childcare and everything else. Utilities, they'll certainly secure their utilities and pay that bill. And we have the League of Women Voters and the Supervisor of Elections office on hand as well. Students are welcome to visit the Your Vote Counts and register to vote if they so choose. Not a mandatory booth, but we do encourage them to at least stop by. As I said, depending upon their profile, some students are able to skip 1 or more booths if they don't want a second job, or again, if they don't have children and don't need to secure childcare. But for the most part, regardless of which booth you're in, you will see all, if not, almost all of the students. So that's kind of the run through of that. Got a couple more pages, but Lisa.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Like if they make 4 choices, are they allowed to revisit the booth to change them?
They are, and that is where you will have some discretion around how you decide to handle that. So, if you're the clothing booth and they come to your booth early in the game and said, you know what, my style matters and I'm going to be buying the name brand clothing that you have available as an option at your store, they come back to you, you might say, well, are the tags still on the clothes? Do you have the receipts? We've got a restocking fee. There is some guidance within each of the booth's instructions to help you deal with that. But again, you are very smart thinking adults and you are welcome to have fun in a kind way with these students about the decisions that they make.
Will visual aids brought from home be acceptable?
Let's talk about that individually, and let us know what you're thinking based on what your booth is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Two questions. I assume this is a mandatory deal for the kids.
Correct. They visit it with their classroom.
Okay. And secondly, will we just be assigned a booth, or do we have part in the selection of what we do?
Yes, if you have some preferences and we can honor those, we would love to do that. We have some companies that are sponsoring individual booths, and they have the right of first refusal to have volunteers in that booth. But for the most part, we should be able to accommodate your preference on which booth you'd like to man.
I'm gonna assume if we have a booth that we really don't know much about, like I have transportation, I'm gonna get some information on to read over to figure that out.
You are, so let's do that next. So I don't think it's the transportation one, but you'll see, I guess it's 3 pages in. You'll see 2 of the station instructions. So these are just 2 examples. You will receive an instruction page before you get to Big Bank, so you have time to read it over for whichever booth you are assigned to. So in this case, this was the housing booth that Tara and Jenny put in your packet. So you'll see the instructions are, it's your responsibility to provide housing for all the students. And so you will be asked to help them make the decision. Again, when you get there, your table has almost like a storefront to it. You don't have to sit there, but it's got a window cut out in it. You can sit behind it if you'd like to, or sit off to the side, but they'll have choices. You'll see on the bottom, you'll see some of the insurance prices related to what type of housing they choose. And then on the back of the page, maybe more pertinent to the initial conversation, are the prices. So you'll see they have the opportunity to rent or to own, and therefore have a mortgage. And again, depending on their personal profile, if they have 3 children, it's probably unlikely that they should be considering a 1-bedroom, but they might need to do that based on their budget. So you'll see rental prices. There's a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, and a 3-bedroom rental option. And there is a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and 4-bedroom ownership option as well.
Jackie, if it's not an optional one and they have to go to it, they have to choose one of these.
They have to choose one of
They
these.
either have to rent or they have to own.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
They have to get insurance.
And they'll have to get insurance, yes, and so you will find that that's a good conversation to have with them. Now, this is a booth where often there are kids that will come to you with their ideas about how they can make it work, including roommates. And that roommate discussion is absolutely fine. You can have students that split housing, and therefore on their budget sheet, they will each only incur half the expense if it's 2 roommates, half the expense of the housing. But again, this is a good time for you to suggest, okay, you're married with 3 children and you're going to bring in a roommate. So does the roommate realize what it's like to, that you're a single roommate? So again, it's not that we're trying to dissuade them, but it's just a good thing and an opportunity for you to have some, real but fun conversation with the students. My guess is we may hear wedding bells a time or 2 in the gym as well. That has certainly come up, saying, well, can we get married and therefore combine all of our income into one? We have no problem with marriages taking place. Divorces have taken place in the gym as well, as they realize they can come to no agreement on decisions to be made with regards to their combined budget after the fact as well. So, like I said, these kids, this year, something will come up that we haven't seen before, so we will just work with it on the fly. While you all will be assigned to a booth, there will be several of us that are there to kind of be facilitators and help when there's a backup or a line at your booth, or if situations present themselves and you need some help figuring it out, there will be several of us that are floating around to be facilitators and help with that process as well. So, so that's an example of housing. The next is the Just for Fun station. So again, to use an example, again, hopefully those of you on Zoom are following easily with us online. The Just for Fun station, it's their responsibility to provide entertainment options for the students. So there's lots of choices at the bottom. They can, go out to lunch, go out to dinner, go to a sporting event, a concert. They can have an iTunes subscription. There's a whole number of options there as well. And so this again is some fun conversation, so 16, 17, 18-year-old students, they're thinking about taking people out on dates potentially. And so they do have to make a selection at your booth. So as the students are making the selection, let's flip back again to that student worksheet, because you will need to help them fill this out and do the math in order to keep the activity moving. Otherwise, it's really tough. We will have calculators, pencils at each of your booths. Certainly most of us, our phones have calculators. The kids may have phones that have calculators, but you will help them ensure. You will write down the name of your booth here under the transaction description, whether it's a debit or a credit. So again, some of you that are at some of the booths, there is the opportunity for the kids to actually add to their monthly budget. But you will ensure that they're doing the math, and you just may need to write that in for them as they're going along. You also, up in the top right-hand corner where all the booths are listed with check boxes, you want to be sure that you check that box for every student that comes. That just helps them keep track of the booths that they have visited, and therefore can easily see which booths they still need to visit. So just that housekeeping on this sheet really helps cut down on kind of the chaos and the wasted time as they're looking around trying to remember which booth they've been to and haven't been to. So any questions on kind of how it works at the booth?
Who can I call to get homeowners insurance for $60 a month?
I know, right? Some of the prices keep up, some haven't, so. And some of it just has to be, we need some of the students to be successful. If everybody loses, I don't know how much of a teaching moment it is, so. Yeah, there will be some things you chuckle over when you see the prices, but we're doing the best we can with a lot of moving parts to try to ensure again that some kids quote win the game, which means they either balance or have a little money left over at the end of the month. But it is interesting. You will see kids comparing sheets all day long. They go like, how do you have that much to work with? I only have this much, or and it's a really interesting conversation and opportunity to talk, again, very briefly, but about, post-secondary credentials and how, whether it's a high quality credential or a certificate or a degree, how important that can be to their earning potential and the ability for them to support themselves and a family, post high school. These kids are getting ready to graduate in what, 7-8 months. And some of them, if you were to ask them, like, what are your plans? They don't really know yet. Some absolutely know what they're doing, but this is a great opportunity for us to encourage them to really start having that conversation with their parents. Again, that FAFSA booth where they can at least take the first step towards that process. No student will be completing the FAFSA while they're there, but it's all about getting them set up with a profile so that their families can then continue it from there. So
one person per booth?
Some booths will have one volunteer. Some are, some are like the That's Life. They're picking a card. It's very easy for one volunteer to manage that. Some are a little more complicated, like all of the choices in housing or the car dealership. Our goal is to have 2 volunteers in the booths that we already know based on experience. It will take a little bit more time with the students. So I'm going to finish just a couple more things, and then I certainly want to put my attention over to our Zoom screen to make sure anybody that wants to jump in with questions or comments from Zoom find a way to do that in an easy way. So when you arrive at the school, Jenny will be emailing you which day, in which time frame. If you're doing a full day, awesome. That is so nice for that continuity. You'll be an expert by the last couple periods of the day. But for those of you that are doing a half day or those kind of things, Jenny will get you that time. I suggest you arrive at least 15 minutes early because you'll find parking. Many of the schools will have some reserved parking for the Big Bang Theory volunteers. But any given day, there are visitors on campus. And so you'll want to leave enough time to get parked. You'll need your government issued picture ID. Because you'll be checking in at the office, at the main office. They will scan your your ID and put you into, I think it's still called the Raptor system, which is the on-site security system. And then you will be escorted to the gymnasium in order to get all settled for the start of Big Bank. For those of you that are there, particularly for the full day, we will be serving lunch for our volunteers, thanks to great sponsor support from businesses that want to do that. We'll have coffee and water, some soft drinks available for you as well. You're welcome to bring a snack if that's something that's important to you, but we will be able to provide refreshments for you as a small token of thanks, and don't expect y'all to try to take a 20-minute lunch break and get off campus if you're there for the whole day. Mary, anything I missed on checking in at schools, Madam School Board Member?
No, you know, once you're in the system, you know, it makes it a whole lot easier.
Yeah,
You know, time out.
good.
Question.
Yes.
If we as Rotarians used to work at one of the other high schools some years ago, and we were in the system then, I guess, would we still be in the system?
No, you have to re-register. They changed it about a year or two ago.
That would have wiped us out.
Would it behoove us to pre-register?
It's not a long process. It just takes, it takes a little bit of time, and especially if most of our volunteers are arriving, especially for that morning shift at the same time. I mean, there could be 25 of you there waiting to check in. So just give yourself ample time. School traffic is also sometimes, for those of us that don't drive through school zones regularly, it can, especially high schools, a lot of those students are driving. So just leave yourself ample time. I will ask you, we know that things come up. If you need to cancel, particularly last minute, if there is any way for you to find someone to take your place, that would be hugely helpful. We're hopeful that, again, with several of the booths having at least 2 volunteers, we'll be able to do some last minute shifting. But you see, it's pretty straightforward. Even someone coming into the gymnasium, not having read stuff days ahead of time, Tara or Jenny or I could give them a very quick orientation to make it easy for them to still volunteer even last minute. So if you do have something come up, if there's any way you could find a replacement and communicate that to us, that would be hugely helpful to ensuring that we can run things smoothly that day.
I assume that a link to the recording would be available to us to share with other.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Jackie, what time do the students actually come in?
That will vary by school, but they will come in as close to the start of that period. I don't know if any of the schools will arrange for their classes to start in the gymnasium. That may happen, particularly for schools that are having students come 2 days in a row. There will be some schools where the students will do the entire activity over one period. It's a longer period, and you will see those students one day. Some schools may have their schedule set such that the kids, it takes 2 days to complete the activity. I just haven't looked in detail at the schedule to know which schools are doing which at this point. But we get them moving, we don't dawdle, because it's a lot. And we want them to be able to successfully complete each booth.
Jackie, a question on the chat?
Yes, okay, are we allowed to share with students other scholarship funding or job training opportunities? You are, although I would caution you to not take too much time for things like that. But yes, if you strike up a conversation, or if you have a business card and you would like to share it with the student, you are welcome to bring business cards. We ask that you not use this as a direct marketing opportunity for your business. I'm sorry, this is the chamber, and I realize that seems sometimes, anti-chamber, but we are there to help the students with this curriculum and the goals of this program. But you are welcome to bring a business card if you think there would be opportunities for you to follow up with these students on things like scholarships or training. Is that the only chat question? Okay, anybody on Zoom want to unmute and have any comments or questions that we can help address?
Jackie, do you have any suggestions in terms of what you'd like us to wear? Do you want us in a tie and jacket? Do you want us in casual clothing? What do you prefer?
For your own comfort level, business casual is perfectly appropriate. If you would like to dress in a suit, You certainly will gain attention, and most likely in a good way, from the students on that. So you want to dress to the nines, go for it, but for your own comfort, you may want to be business casual. You're welcome to wear a logoed shirt of your organization or your company if you'd like to do that as well. Any other Zoom questions? Okay, chime in if you don't worry about unmuting and interrupting us. Looking over my list, Tara. Anything else? I don't see anything on my notes, so any wrap-up questions? Anything?
I'm facial, and
Yes.
it looks like a lot of people are, I can change schools if you need me to move, if you're low somewhere.
Okay,
It just has to be on certain days, I don't remember what the days they are,
okay,
but I can, put me out there for really any school.
wonderful. Any of that flexibility, or if now, again, you're so inspired that you want to say, I can volunteer a second or third day, just send an email to Jenny, and she will keep that as it is a big fat puzzle to put together as we're matching volunteer availability with school slots, so.
Could you maybe even send a list, that you're short in certain places and dates, so we know kind of what you're looking for?
That would be great. I think at this point you said Braden River, due to a few hurricane cancellations next week, which is Monday and Tuesday. We're still looking for volunteers, and then the dates at the very end, right? I think we're pretty good. But yes, Jenny will communicate on any openings that we still are looking to fill. That would be phenomenal. You all can be ambassadors for us on that.
We had one business yesterday that unfortunately had to pull off 15 of their employees.
From Braden River next
On
week.
Monday, which I'm already
there.
Yeah, so.
And it's completely understandable, we totally get it, but yeah, day one.
For those of you on Zoom, if it was tough for people talking, we said we lost about 15 volunteers from Braden River on Monday and Tuesday of next week due to a business that had a great turnout by their employees, but unfortunately complications from the storm required that. So we do have a need for Monday and Tuesday next week at Braden River. How can we find out what school we signed up for? Jenny will send you that information. Again,
For November 14th is when she is, Angela Harry is November 14th.
okay, we'll email that to you though, Angela, as well. Great.
For a total of 4 days, Monday, Tuesday, or is it more than that?
No, there are 15 days, 7 schools times 2 days plus 1 day at the collegiate school.
Doesn't overlap, so.
No, none of them overlap.
Okay,
Correct, none of them overlap. But they're not all Monday, Tuesdays.
Okay, next week is just Braden River, and that's Monday and Tuesday. The following week, we do 2 days at Manatee High and 2 days at Lake Ranch. So it just depends, the schools pick their days. So some days we have 2 schools, other weeks we just have.
And that the whole schedule is, I'm sure, posted on the chamber
Yes,
site, I
yes,
forgot.
but nothing overlaps, because we will be at every. session.
Okay.
It's on the event page.
You can't be at 2 places at once.
If I could, that would be awesome.
That's awesome. Okay. Anything else in the chat? Do you mind scrolling up just a little bit, Tara?
I don't think we have anything in there.
Nope, I think we got all those in the chat. Yes.
One of the things to possibly think about is unknown occurrences coming up that might impact the budget. So if we're advising on budget, things like the hurricane cleanup or something that they may have to pay somebody for also needs to be put in there or saved for.
Yes, and we do have a booth that it's called That's Life, where things like flat tires, somebody wins the lottery, typically once a day, somebody wins the lottery, so that's a good one. You hear all kinds of hooting and hollering. But we do have a kind of that random occurrence booth that does throw that into the mix. Mary.
Could you talk a little bit about the credit card, use of the credit card? Because some of the booths, the student will make a decision and it may not be a wise decision to get in debt.
Yes, I totally skipped that over. I neglected to put it on my handwritten notes. So with the students, I should call them children, the students do have the option of securing a credit card, and there is a booth for credit cards. Everyone is deemed credit worthy, maybe somewhat unrealistically, but that way we're not, having that short conversation and trying to get them through the program. But there is the opportunity for them to get a credit card, and they will literally go and we give them a little cardboard credit card. So they can come to your booth and use a credit card. And if they do, then you'll see on there, I'm so sorry, I'm so glad you asked this. It would have been a huge oversight on my part. On the back of the student profile, is because it'll take both sides in order to write everything down they're dealing with. There is the opportunity to pay for things with a credit card. You don't need to worry about calculating interest and minimum monthly payments. They will go back to the credit card booth if they choose to use a credit card, and whoever's assigned to that booth will be prepared to do those quick calculations for them.
I'm assuming we have a cheat sheet.
You have a cheat sheet,
It's
yes.
right here in black and white. really.
Yes,
Oh, the minimum.
yes.
Oh,
Sheets
yeah.
are always-
And perhaps surprising, it's not a ton of students that choose to use a credit card. I've seen more often than not, they choose to make a different decision, be that different spending choices, a roommate, what have you, but there is a credit card. Whoever's in that booth will have ample support from those of us that are facilitators. But once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy to fill out the paperwork.
And they can put anything on the credit card?
I'd have
Not
to,
everything.
not everything.
Housing, on this, packet we have here,
Yeah.
they cannot charge their rent on a credit card.
Yes, there are a couple of things they cannot use a credit card for.
Okay.
But we can also guide them,
You can. Yes, again,
because Bill and we're actually gonna be in the credit.
oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so it's
Every
like-
school, you're gonna be volunteering at every school?
Well, we'll be traveling for part
I
of
know, I'm
it.
teasing.
Good question on the chat.
Okay, will they have a credit score that will affect their interest rates or car buying power? No, I believe not, only because of the short duration of the program. Again, my hope is that with the Florida legislation that was passed, that is now making financial literacy mandatory curriculum.
Thank God.
At school districts, that will be a much broader conversation they will have in another context, some other way than the hour and a half we get to see them. But good point, we all know that's reality. Yes.
For someone to volunteer, do they have to be part of the Chamber of Commerce? And if so, how can they get in contact if they want to volunteer?
They do not need to be a member of the chamber. We would love to expand the volunteer base, and they can email Jenny or go to our website and just click on if it's not linked on our homepage, they just click on chamber events and they can go to the Big Bang Theory event and get all the information. Yeah, that'd be great.
At the end of the simulation, you guys going to give them a fact of life, because they don't have credit scores. They need to know that the average debt of credit card in Florida is $30,000 per individual. They need to know more how many people they can live in a house, how many kids can be in a room, how many things like that. And you guys want to provide that for them?
We do have follow-up curriculum that is provided to the teachers. It's a school-based decision is my understanding on how far, whichever class they're participating in the Big Bang Theory through, take that support curriculum. Again, our opportunity is about 90 minutes with each of the classes, but we have developed follow-up curriculum. And again, our hope is that Florida will be in the future having a more robust support system from a curriculum perspective for our students in financial literacy. Anything else?
I do have a question.
Yes.
So I was looking at my calendar. It says that next Monday is a holiday. Are the kids still gonna be going to school on that day?
Yes, they are.
It's coming those days, no.
Okay.
Let's see, can you scroll up, Tara? There were a few more. This will be okay, you would like, okay, you can go back down. Will they have a credit score? I prefer to be at the back to school booth. Thank you, Joe, we got made note of that. All right. If there's nothing else, some of you may be visiting Jenny now to sign up for more shifts or to request a specific booth or to find out what school you're at. We are very grateful for the time you are going to commit to the Big Bang Theory. We are so proud of this business community for the impact that we are collectively going to make in seeing more than 3,000 students in October and November. That is just an incredible effort, and there is zero chance that we would do that without each of you. So thank you, thank you. Let us know how we can help you feel even more prepared for your coming volunteer shift, and we are excited to see you at each of the schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.